blind babies looking for food. Starvation, the recipe, people subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day, and every clue, don't let it go. It's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets, with the people in the slums and the homeless bums, with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep, leaving 7 rows to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a debt's old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and up and we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die, you voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers. Cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about control air or the weather, I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack, and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in a way to settle. If you stop the machines for a minute, you might hear, but they won't, cause the TV's whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keep
like an ass, it's hard to get a maggot to listen. It's hard to get a maggot to listen. Yes, it is hard to get a maggot to listen, but you gonna listen and you gonna find out. Because you think you're determined with your little schemes and cheating people who actually follow the law, and you think abusing the law makes you brave. I mean, imagine people that think, that are brave when they're using the government to harass communities. I mean, how unbrave is that, to use the military against the civilian population? How cowardly is that? And there's actually people that they really feel brave watching when they see that. When they see a woman have a child ripped from her arms, they actually feel powerful. I mean, that's the most superficial form of power you could ever have, because you ain't even going to have health care. How pathetic is that, to not even know if you're going to be able to afford health care next week while you're stripping a baby from a mother's arms with a military uniform on, with night goggles on. I mean, it's just so many contradictions in this, so many contradictions. But in any case, it is what it is. I'm happy I have my health care. Because I live outside of the U.S. as an American citizen in Denmark, and I do have universal health care. So when I go to the doctor, I'm not getting this huge premium. Somebody's not asking me, well, you got a deductible. No one's asking me, how much is your deductible? How much is your deductible? It's not like people getting 50 different answers when they get asked, about a deductible. There's no deductible. It's already paid for. It's been paid in advance, okay? When I go to work every day, I pay a little to it. There's nothing called a deductible. It doesn't vary depending on what company you have. You don't get confused about whether you're going to have it when you get sick. You don't, it's none of these shenanigans while somebody's sitting on the board, where the company made $1 billion more this year while they kicked out, 1,000 more people soon as they got sick. There's none of these kind of questions. In fact, you ain't going to die from stress in some countries, that's for sure, worrying about your healthcare. But right now, there's literally going to be Americans dying just from the stress of it. Just from the stress of it. It's going to be folks out there, and they're going to be puffing hard on them cigarettes because, what else can you do when you're stressed out and you don't have an outlet to deal with it? And, it's a shame, but it is what it is. And that's how people want it. That's what people voted for. People vote every midterm election for a congressional member, for a senator. So at the end of the day, it's your goddamn fault. And if you are one of those people that don't vote and you were a citizen, you deserve what you're getting. You deserve it. You deserve all the contradictions, And it may hurt you to hear this, but it's not my fault because you need to look in the mirror. It's everyone's responsibility to look in the mirror about their life collectively and individually, both the micro and the macro, in order to know and gauge whether they're making quality decisions in their life. And if you ever reach one point where the micro is not working correctly, it's your responsibility to do something about it. When you reach the point where the macro is not working right, it's your responsibility to do something about it. But if you don't vote, which is what, like a third of the U.S. population is dealing with, you maybe you're one of the people who had your vote stolen from you. In that case, I can understand. Maybe you're one of the people who's one of these states decided that because you committed a crime, you shouldn't be able to vote for 10 more years. If that's the case, I understand the situation. But if you're a person that is just too goddamn lazy to vote, or a person that is so stupid you let somebody convince you that your vote doesn't matter, this is what it looks like. This is the outcome. The outcome is that you can rip away a baby from a mother's arms, but you can't have affordable health care. You see the trade-off? You can't. And you ain't going to get it anytime soon unless Republicans negotiate with Democrats. Yes, you will lose whatever little health care you have, and that's just what it is. And there's going to be people in industrialized Western countries like your neighbor Canada that's going to be watching you, looking at you with binoculars like, damn, I saw that person over there across the border, they actually voted for Trump. And now Trump doesn't even give a fuck about their health care. It hurts me to see them crying, but damn, why would they vote for Trump? And to you people that did vote for Trump, but now you regret it, hey, at least you have some real courage. That takes more courage than sending a person out in a military uniform with a gun, an assault weapon, to go find a woman who just cleaned some stairs, to catch her at work and grab her, or catch her at coming home from work, picking up her kid and grabbing her baby and taking it out of her arms. Admitting you're wrong takes more courage than what ICE people have to, display day by day, just straight up. So you folks, I understand you. That's all good. People make mistakes in voting, and now you're getting a chance to find out about it, and what it do. And this is what it do. This is flat out what it do. It's not the first time the United States has been in a shutdown. But by the way, did you know if you come out of this shutdown without a negotiation, you will be paying a hell of a lot more for your health care? I mean, you're in a bad situation. You are in a collective bad situation. All of you, if there's anybody smiling that's an American citizen right now, that's a middle class person or a poor person, and you're smiling, you are extremely fucking ignorant. And you have a huge ego, or a mental disorder. Because why would you cut your arm off just or why would you cut your nose off just to spite your face? Why would you want someone else to be hurting? Why would you be willing to hurt yourself just so someone else can hurt? That's what you're seeing right now. This is literally what you're seeing right now. You're seeing middle class and broke ass Republicans spite their face, cut their nose off to stop someone else from getting health care when they ain't even getting no help. There's no promise to any of you right now from Trump to get any goddamn health care. The promise you got from Trump is that you will pay more for everything. Ha ha, surprise, gotcha. That's the message from Trump. Now, here are some other messages from Trump in the past, because this is not the first time you had a healthcare issue. This is not the first time you had a shutdown. You know, look, check this out. In an Oval Office meeting on December 11th, 2018, that's not a long time ago. Shit's happening so fast. People, they forgot, like, damn, 2018 is not a long time ago, but Trump is dismantling their economy, the U.S. economy, in people's faces so fast while he's while he's grifting like never before, like no human being in the world has ever grifted before. Do you know the president of the United States is the most powerful person on earth? And if you can grift, and if someone else can grift, oh, when the Supreme Court gave this man immunity, that you're watching the most griftingest ass person that's ever existed ever in the history of the world. Ever. Ever. There's never been grifting like this. This should be a fucking R&B song or a goddamn disco song. It's never been grifting like this before. Never been grifting like this before. I mean, it's never fucking existed before, yo. But in any case, 2018, I am proud. This is what Trump said. So this is what he said. I am proud to shut down the government for border security. I will be the one to shut the government down. I'm not going to blame you for it. I will take the mantle. He's cool with that. I will be the one to shut it down. Then look at this. Schumer says we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. Damn, Schumer's being too civilized in that response. You know, he should have said something different, because you're not dealing with a civilized person in Trump. On the Senate floor, later, Schumer accused Trump of repeated threats. Look, let me remind you, the president called for a shutdown no less than 25 times. He wanted one. He wanted one for months. After the shutdown was underway, Trump asserted that Democrats must bear the responsibility. Yeah. But in any case, for people who have been following the shutdown history, Republicans have shut shit down many a time. And it just is what it is. It's not the first time. What is this? Look at this. Is this one of the shutdowns right here? Let's see here.
Good question.
Let's see.
This is actually one of the clearest examples of partisan difference in modern US budget politics. Let's break it down by administration and party. Donald Trump's presidency, Jan 2017, Jan 2021. During Trump's 4 years, Republicans controlled the White House, and for the first 2 years, both chambers of Congress. Despite that, government shutdown threats and one actual shutdown occurred mainly due to Republican-led standoffs, often over funding priorities like immigration and border security. Shutdowns, threats. 1. Jan 2018, 3-day partial shutdown. Who threatened? Democrats, Senate minority. Why? Overprotection for Dreamers, DACA. Result, ended quickly after McConnell promised immigration votes. 2. DEC 2018, Jan 2019, 35-day shutdown.
Now that was in 2019 when the Democrats threatened the shutdown, right? Over DACA, right? Now, this was during Trump's presidency, right? Now, after Trump had his presidency, Biden became the president, and Biden signed a co-sponsored bill, co-sponsored and signed by Republicans and Democrats, right? For what? Comprehensive immigration reform. Trump was not the president when that comprehensive immigration reform bill was co-sponsored by Republicans and Democrats. But Trump heard about it, saw people were about to sign it, and he threatened Republicans. He said, don't sign it. And he wasn't even the president. And you know what Republicans did? They didn't sign it.
Down. the longest in US history. Who threatened? Republican/Trump White House. Why? Trump demanded $5.7 billion for the border wall. Democrats refused. Result: ended when Trump agreed to reopen government without wall funding. 3. Other threats, 2017 to 2020. Several Republican-originated threats from Trump and the House Freedom Caucus, especially over spending caps and COVID relief, but only those two resulted in serious shutdown brinkmanship. Summary for Trump era. Total serious shutdowns, 2. Led by Republicans, 1 major 35-day wall standoff. Led by Democrats, 1 brief DACA protest shutdown. Other shutdown threats, 3 to 4, mostly Republican caucus members pushing spending cuts.
That was just in Trump's first term. Biden's term.
Joe Biden's presidency, Jan 2021, present under Biden, the Democrats controlled Congress 2021 to 2022, then Republicans took the House in 2023. Nearly all shutdown threats since then have come from House Republicans, especially the far-right Freedom Caucus, using funding deadlines to force cuts or policy riders. Shutdowns, threats. 1. Sept-Oct 2021. Who threatened? Congressional Republicans. Why? Debt ceiling and infrastructure spending. GOP blocked funding votes until Democrats used reconciliation. 2. Sept 2023. Who threatened? Republicans. House Freedom Caucus versus McCarthy. Why? Demanded spending cuts and border measures. Result: a short-term continuing resolution, CR, prevented a shutdown hour.
So, in any case, people can get into the details about the last decade or, if they want. I think that's fair enough if you want to get into those details. But this is just to illustrate that shutdowns have been threatened and shutdowns have happened quite frequently in the United States of America, period, whether you like it or not. Okay. And there's no way in hell any Republican can dare say, oh, that's so unfair how you're using a shutdown. Why do you do that? That's not fair. You shouldn't do that. When do Republicans ever do that? Well, here, you heard it. This is when Republicans do that type of stuff. So this time around, it's about this. It's about this. It's a very simple thing. If you want to pay 20 to 60 times more, beginning, you're probably going to get your first notice in November 1st, which is 2-3 weeks from now. If you want to get a notice in your door that says you're going to pay 20 to 60% more for your health care, for your current health care right now, if you want to pay that much, then you should demand that the shutdown ends. If you want to pay that much, you should say, Democrats, walk away from this and just end the shutdown. Just do what the Republicans want. And Democrats, if they do that, you will be fucked on your health care. Most of you won't be able to afford it. Literally, you just won't be able to. Now, there's some that are recluses that, they feel like they're young. They don't need health care. Maybe they don't have parents. Maybe they don't have a baby, this kind of thing. And I understand people like that. They don't feel like they want to be totally independent of everybody else, and they want to keep all their money in their pocket. They don't want, even though it's not their money personally, it's everyone's fucking money, which is a crazy, thing to think about it. Because when you talk to Trump, when you talk to Mike Johnson, they talk to American people like it's not actually the working class people's money, which is really, really strange. It's probably the only Western democracy where the parliamentary heads speak about tax money like it's not literally coming from the taxpayer. Literally. While MAGA Mike Johnson's, his health care is paid for by the taxpayer. Trump's health care is paid for by the taxpayer. They are getting socialized health care right now as we speak, paid for by every taxpayer. Yes, every congressional member is getting socialized health care. Every senator, no matter what party, is getting socialized health care. Everyone in the fucking White House is getting socialized health care. Pretty much. But the citizens who pay for that, they're being told, hey, man, you're too lazy. Go to work. Hey, man, stop crying. Stop bitching. You're able-bodied. This is literally what they're being told. And, oh, well, that's just where it's going to have to stand. Ooh, well, now Mike Johnson has now threatened to keep the government closed for a third time. For a third time. It's not even the second time. It's the third time now. Just in the last month and a half, something like that, 2 months, he sent Congress out of session. This is the third time. Coming up this week, they are not in session, meaning they will be making no communications with Democrats about the shutdown. That's not good, because with the shutdown, it means some people, like Republicans that voted for Trump, won't get paid. I mean, literally, it means these ICE people that you like, Trump people like to have out on the street ripping babies from mothers, they won't get a check. If you cool with that, I'm cool with that. Hey, why not? It's your choice. Um, it also means the military, these people from Texas, the National Guard, the guys that, the Texan governor wants to send to Chicago, who has their own National Guard, even though Texas is a taker state, generates less money, less federal dollars than they use. And Illinois, the state Chicago is in, generates more generates more federal dollars than they actually use and have their own National Guard. And they're saying, why are you sending your National Guard here? Hey, the guy in Texas, he's going to send them anyway, but they ain't going to get a check if the shutdown doesn't end. Sound like a bright idea? Yeah, to some people, to Republicans, it sounds like a pretty clever idea. Yeah, Trump is okay with that. You haven't heard Trump bitching and moaning for anybody. Trump is cool either way. He's like, hey, if you spend 20 to 60% more for your health care, that's the lucky people. Hey, he's cool with that. While you're paying for his health care, he's got no problem with that. And he has no problem with the people that he sent out not getting a check. He's not saying, hey, we need to negotiate over this. He's not saying, he has this all or nothing politic, which ain't going to work, you know? And guess who has to pay for that? Everybody. Everybody, even the Republicans. And the crazy thing is that this is entitled "Who Will Be Hurt Most?" This stream, who will be hurt most by the shutdown? And I'm gonna tell you, I already know it's going to ravage the economy of red states that voted for Trump. Does Trump care about that? No, because Trump didn't give a fuck about that anyway. He never said he cared about that. Republicans never cared about whether you're getting a fair shot at work, whether your minimum wage is decent enough to pay for a living in red states. He never gave a fuck about, can you afford health care in red states, even though you have less jobs and even though you get paid less. That's not something Republicans give a shit about. You see, he never promised you that. It's crazy. Look at this. Mike Johnson, according to AP News now, don't believe AP News if you think they're a communist threat. You don't have to listen to them. Republican leaders sent lawmakers home 3 weeks ago after the House approved the bill to fund the federal government. They haven't been back in working session since. On Friday, that was just Friday that just passed, right? It's the weekend now. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. Leadership team announced they won't be returning next week. Oh, well, that's just normal. That's how it works. And that's okay if that's how you like it. I mean, hey, what the heck? You can't force everybody to do their job when they get paid by the American people, right? Every single one of you, no matter what party you're with, pays for their health care and is paying their salary right now while they're not in session doing anything. Period. You pay for that. That's what you pay for. Just like you pay for Caroline, Lioness Caroline Levitt's. You pay for her check. She still gets paid during the shutdown. Trump still gets paid during the shutdown. Congressional members still get paid during the shutdown. Senators still get paid during the shutdown. Okay. National Guard doesn't still get paid during the shutdown. ICE doesn't get paid during the shutdown. Active military doesn't get paid during the shutdown. But if you're cool with that and that's what's normal to you, it's okay with me. That's quite fine if it's okay with
in order
you.
to reopen the government, in order to enact a spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people, and to address the Republican healthcare crisis that is devastating people from all across the country. House Republicans canceled votes last week, canceled votes this week, and now they've canceled votes next week. They're running scared. They don't know what to do. They're unwilling to address the crisis that they've created, largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, community-based health centers all across the country closing because of what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill. And now they are refusing to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which means tens of millions of Americans are going to experience dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles, paying thousands of dollars per year more for their health insurance, which they will not be able to afford.
Everyone pays for Trump's health care. Trump went to VA hospital where plenty of veterans don't seem to be able to get assistance. You know, Trump got his assistance. Who pays for the VA? Public. That's public health care. In case you didn't know that, right? So there's people out here lying, talking about Trump don't get a check, Caroline doesn't get a check. You out of your goddamn mind. And it doesn't matter. They have the best health care on earth that American citizens pay for. So, I mean, they got their health care. They got their check, you know? And by the way, you're the one that wanted ICE out on the street. Do you want ICE paid? Apparently you don't. You're the one that's sending the National Guard, Republicans, from Texas to another state, all the way the length of the whole country to a whole nother state that has their own National Guard to not get a check. Do you want them to not get a check? So here, it's fair enough because I don't think they should get a check. And I'm against them sending the National Guard to do policing. I'm against Trump sending ICE out violating the Fourth Amendment. But hey, so you know, I don't want them to get a check. So I'm totally cool with the shutdown as a Democrat. I think Democrats should hold strong, period. Don't change nothing. Stay the course. Break Trump's back. Break the Republicans' back over this issue. That's what I think. Now, only those of you that support Trump, do you want ICE to get paid? If you want them to get paid, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't, put a 2 in the chat. Only people that support Trump. Only people that support Trump. If you want ICE to get paid, put a 1. Put a 1. If you don't, put a 2. I'm going to say 2. I think I'm going to get my way this time. 2. Fuck ICE. Boom. There you go. ICE should not get paid. As a Democrat, I put in my vote. Now, if you want ICE to get paid, guess what's happening? They're not. I hope you're happy with that now. Enjoy the ride. It's going to be a nice ride. It's going to be a very nice ride. ICE not getting paid, National Guard not getting paid, and I approve. I approve. I think Republicans should not negotiate at all over health care with Democrats. Period. Don't do it. Don't do it. Stay home. Be hard-headed. Make sure that the middle class and the poor pay 20 to 60% more for health care. That's what I want the Republican Party to do. So hold your ground, Republicans. Do not cave in. If you don't cave in, guess what? I think this is very beautiful, man. This is crazy. This is crazy. I don't want ICE to get a check, so fuck ICE. So, hey, stay in the shutdown. Stay in the shutdown, Democrats. Yo, and guess what, Republicans? Your states are going to be ravaged. They're going to be ravaged over this issue, and that is not a fact. Guess what? Everybody can do this, cut my nose off to spite my face, but the question is, who's going to be hurt most? Usually, you really go die hard when the other people you're against get hurt worse, right? But that's not Republicans. They on suicide
So
time.
take a step aside here. There is quite a bit of military members and their families in line because of this government shutdown. We're in day 9 of it, and they're here for a food pantry. There's all sorts of food that is available, and I spoke with some military member spouses, and I spoke with some department heads here at the ASYMCA on why this is so important. What's the difference in the amount of people that you've seen from today to previously?
So when we first started coming, there definitely wasn't this amount of people. It was a lot, but it wasn't this amount to where it wrapped around the building. But lately it has been a lot. Like we were here last week and we were in line for like 2 hours.
Yo, Eric, look, the healthcare shit ain't even kicked in. That's kicking in November, right? If nothing happens, right? If there's no deal reached, that kicks in November 1st. They will get the notices, and then it kicks in later, I think in December, right? But check around Christmas time. But check this out. These are bread lines because active duty, even with their last check, many active duty, they can't afford shit anyway, bro. It's just the hardcore facts. But Republicans, they're real hardcore negotiators. Stick out your chest. Let's send our military out there to police liberals. The liberals need to be policed. We don't like the gays. We don't want. You need to stop having abortions, women. You should know better. Don't spread your legs, women. That's the Republicans for you. And also anti-vax, although Trump just went to the hospital and got his fucking vaccination, his COVID vaccination, his flu vax. I mean, Trump is vaxxed up while his own health secretary is telling people, man, vaccines are a fraud. I mean, that's why I say when you're dealing with suicidal politics, I say it's better to do jujitsu, do a jujitsu flip. Democrats should do a jujitsu flip. If Republicans think their people, their voters are better off with Republican politics, then just be hard-headed just like them. Don't argue to help the poor anymore, Democrats. Don't argue to help the middle class, even though there's middle class all over, even though the red states tend to have more people out of work by percentage, right? Don't argue for them. Just let it be. Let them be strong. They're the strongest people on earth. These Republicans, they're strong, man. They got all the answers. Just stay in the shutdown and find out. Don't negotiate. Republicans, you way stronger. Wait for the Democrats to cave in and see if it happens. Just wait. Don't worry. Those weak little liberals, the gays, the women that's doing their abortions, the Negroes, the Hispanics, all the other people, the Asians, they're weak, man. They did nothing for this country. Just keep them in a shutdown. They'll break. Okay, is that what you want? Let's watch this a little
In a
bit.
normal week, we usually run out of food around
In line.
Motherfuckers are running out of food, man. This is already what Trump has done to the economy. They can't afford food right now. What kind of job do you get in a red state? What's your dream when you grow up in a red state? Join the military. That's exactly what they're doing. A lot of these people,
Because of this
man,
government
look.
shutdown, we're in day 9 of it, and they're here for a food pantry. There's all sorts of food that is available, and I spoke with some military member spouses, and I spoke with some department heads here at the ASYMCA.
Yeah, let them eat cake, bro. That's what, look, Cheryl, exactly, look. But this is how they do their politics. This is Trump for you. Let them eat cake. So Democrats should do the judo flip. Don't fight against Trump. Don't try to prove Trump wrong. Let Trump be right. And let them eat cake. Like, seriously, until they learn their lesson.
Why this is so important. What's the difference in the amount of people that you've seen from today to previously?
So when we first started coming, there definitely wasn't this amount of people. It was a lot, but it wasn't this amount to where it wrapped around the building.
Somebody said my statistics are false. This is not my statistics. You're listening to a woman standing in a bread line who's in a military bread line. It's not my statistics. It's her story. What the fuck? Yo, some of these maggots, man, I swear you guys are the most hard-headedest people. And again, I understand false pride. Pride in the wrong things. I get it. Totally. Everyone from, who has a certain type of exposure, hasn't been exposed enough to the world, hasn't been exposed enough to their own country, have been locked in some corner of the world where they don't get out enough, they have this kind of false pride shit. It exists all over the world. But when you're outside of that and you're looking back in, it looks like this. This is what it looked like.
For a food pantry, there's all sorts of food that is available. And I spoke with some military member spouses, and
Yeah, how much your eggs costing right now? Exactly. We started on this a year ago, man. How much your eggs go up? Tell me what state you're in and tell me the price of eggs right now. I want to know how much you paying for eggs and mention your state. Texas, how much you paying for eggs? Florida, how much you paying for eggs? Kentucky, how much you paying for eggs? Any of y'all, how much do you pay for your eggs? Let me take a look right now. Before we go further, let me just look and find out how much do I pay for eggs. Let me see. I'm over here in Copenhagen. How much are eggs in Copenhagen today in USA dollars? A 12 pack. Let's see here. I forgot how much I paid for eggs. Let me see. Okay. Now, don't forget to put your state, okay? Because without the state, it's not going to tell me a whole bunch. You know what I'm saying? Really, it's not going to tell me, look at this. Chris says, damn, what kind of difference is this? Yo, we pay $4.86 for large eggs for a 12 pack. And that's today. How much in January? Let me see here. January. I just want to see. They went up a little bit over here. But let me see. It was $4.16. So you see the difference in the last year in the price. Since Trump in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Over here is about 50 cents. That's been the difference, right? 50 cents. Yeah, that's been the price hike in eggs over here. So, but I know a whole lot of people in the U.S. is lying right now because you ain't getting eggs for this cheap. I mean, it's already been documented everywhere. So, all right, I tell you what, how much you pay for your steak. Anyway, let's just listen because look, if eggs were that cheap, goddamn, what are these people doing in lines? What are they doing in lines? If eggs are that cheap, where are they buying their eggs? People need to go. If you get eggs that cheap, bring your eggs to them. Because wherever they are, they're not getting them.
I spoke with some department heads here at the ASYMCA on why this is so important. What's the difference in the amount of people that you've seen from today to previously?
So when we first started coming, there definitely wasn't this amount of people. It was a lot, but it wasn't this amount to where it wrapped around the building. But lately it has been a lot. Like we were here last week and we were in line for like 2 hours.
In a normal week, we usually run out of food about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Last week, we ran out of.
Goddamn, they ran out of food around 10. You know, it's like, that's the story for them. That's what's going on over there. And nobody's listening. These are military people. Trump wants he's okay with their health care going up. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about extended, not them, because obviously they get their veterans care. But their care is being cut in half because the government's not really trying to fund that anymore either. Trump doesn't want all that stuff going out to the VA anymore. He's trying to cut that also at the same time, and Maga Mike Johnson, he had a rough week where he went up there and had to eat shit and explain this, although it doesn't make any sense.
Obamacare actually live in states that President Trump won in 2024. We're talking about some 19 million people, Mr. Speaker. Can those people depend on congressional Republicans to extend those health insurance tax credits by the time they expire?
We have plenty of time to figure that out because, again, it doesn't expire until the end of the year.
Do you commit to that?
I commit to what Republicans have always done and what we've already proven this year in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cuts. Republicans are the ones in Congress working to improve health care access, quality, and make it cheaper. We want to bring the cost down of health care. premiums are too high. But it's not because of Republican policies. It's because Obamacare is not working. We're trying to fix it. We've just shown in the one big beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, those reforms we made to Medicaid are not cuts to Medicaid. Medicaid will continue to grow. It's just growing at a slower pace. Why? Because we got illegal aliens and able-bodied young men without dependents off of Medicaid. They were never
Able-bodied men who are dependents. Okay. Where do those men come from? What states do those able-bodied men that Mike Johnson is talking about, where do they come from? Are those all liberal states? I'm just curious. You tell me. You tell me, Americans, proud Americans, where do they live? Is it Appalachia or is it New York City? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. Any inflation in the U.S.? Any cost of living expenses since Trump has been in office? You tell me if there is. Maybe there isn't. Maybe all the news is fake. So you tell me. Here's your chance to tell me how the cost of living is in each state that you live in. Don't forget to mention your state now.
Plan to be there in the first place. And what the Democrats are demanding right now to keep the government open is we put them all back on there. We're not doing that.
Let's just set the table here for folks. And I'll just, Leader Jeffries talked about this, but just to reiterate to you.
Listen, I don't mind troll propaganda. I don't mind it at all. I don't mind people going outside of the data. You know, I don't mind that. Make up your own data if you want. If you think blue states have the most poverty in the country, I'm cool with that. If you think blue states are going to be hurt the most and therefore you support the shutdown, I'm cool with that. Although that's not true. Although red states, which is why I'm cool with that. You see what I'm saying? But if you believe blue states will be hurt more by this shutdown than red states, I'm cool with that. It's not an issue for me.
The point that he just made, undocumented immigrants, as you know, are actually ineligible for
wrong.
federal health care.
No, let me correct you.
Let me say it,
Yeah.
then you can talk, okay? Right now, undocumented immigrants are not eligible for federal health care programs. Democrats, as you heard, say they're not trying to change that. But one of their demands would restore Medicaid funding for hospitals to give emergency care, including to undocumented immigrants. Are you suggesting, Mr. Speaker, that ER doctors check people's immigration status before they render emergency care?
No. Again, it's another red herring. What the Democrats are demanding is that illegal aliens that care for them in an emergency room should be reimbursed at a higher rate.
To the hospitals.
To the hospitals than America.
Look, Maga Mike Johnson just openly lying. Now, see, he never said that before. Now, being under all that pressure, now he has a new piece of information that they're actually paying more to give service to illegal. That is ridiculous, yo. And he's really taking advantage of ignorant people. You know, from the very beginning, most people understood that really researched this matter, understood it's not illegal immigrants getting health care in the United States of America. What they tried to do was confuse emergency care. Emergency care is only one aspect of health care. And how do you manage emergency care? The problem is this. In an emergency, it comes down to a very simple question. And doctors in the American Healthcare Association, they agreed you can't check people for their fucking ID in an emergency. That would cause way more American citizens' deaths. That's the only issue that's going on. That's the only issue. And it's not illegal immigrants. It's also other people that for some reason, maybe they're on vacation in the United States from a friendly country, a country that, you know, while they're on vacation, they're spending their money in the U.S. Maybe an accident happens and they can't find their health care card. They don't know which insurance company they have, or maybe they made a mistake. It could be any amount of different types of people in an emergency situation. If you're an American citizen, you get shot. Someone in the broad daylight, for example, right? If you get shot by an immigrant in broad daylight that takes your ID, someone calls the ambulance. The ambulance comes to your rescue. They look at you and they say, "Yeah, but give me your ID." And you don't have your ID and you can't even talk because you're bleeding out of the side of your neck. Are they to leave you on the ground because they can't determine if you're an immigrant or if you're a citizen? That's what the issue is about. And Republicans are trying to argue that you can do the emergency room some other way that just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist.
American citizens that illegal aliens that care for them in an emergency room should be reimbursed at a higher rate
To the hospitals.
to the hospitals than American citizens, young pregnant women. They want to pay more for illegal aliens than U.S. citizens, and we are against that. The reason it's illegal right now for illegal aliens to receive taxpayer-funded benefits is because Republicans wrote it into the law July 4th. Don't take my word for it. Look at page 57, section 2141 of Chuck Schumer's counterproposal. It's on my website at speaker.gov. Everybody go look. Don't take my word for it. Read their section. They want to reverse those changes.
But first of all, law was put in place during the Reagan administration, which guarantees that anyone who walks into a hospital gets critical care.
Applies.
So are you saying, because basically the implications of what you're implying is that ER doctors should be checking people's immigration. If someone walks into a hospital and they're bleeding out, should an ER doctor not render care to that person?
No, it's another red herring. I'm not.
You see, he's not. This is what Americans really need to understand. If you want the doctor looking for your ID, if you want the ambulance looking for your ID before they give you life-saving treatment, if that is what you want, then you do not want Democrats. You want Democrats to just sign over and say, fuck it, open up the government. Because that is what Trump is asking for. That is what Republicans are asking for. They're tricking you by making it sound like it's about illegal immigrants. No, it's about the masses of Americans, way more Americans, that's going to be denied emergency health fucking care with your own taxpayer dollars just so they can put the money in their pocket. You guys, you better really fucking wake up. You better really fucking wake up. Like, Americans better wake up and listen. When you have a treasonous in office, grifting, Americans from the reds, the ones who have brains in the Maga party, need to link up with the ones who have brains in every other party, independent, blue, Democrats, and do something about this treason that's going on. Because the few people, the minority, I don't know how many of them that are ignorant about their own health care and what's going on in the United States, that population is going to send the rest into suicide by supporting suicidal bills. Like, really, without having any clue, just being so easy to trick and fool and say, every excuse for taking your tax dollars and giving it to the rich. Guess what the excuse is? Illegal immigrant. That's the excuse. That's all they have to say.
I'm not implying that at all. Everyone knows when the hospitals seek reimbursement from the federal government, what they did under the Biden.
Look, same people don't even want to release the Epstein files. This is the dude. He doesn't want to go in session because that will force House to have a vote on releasing the Epstein files. And they don't want you to see how many Republicans still will hide it, because it will make it clear that they're supporting trafficking. Like, straight up, it will make it clear they're supporting blackmail. Active blackmail is what is in those Epstein files. If the American people don't know who has those who was on videotape sleeping with minors, if they don't get to know who that is, you will never find out who is being blackmailed in your courts, who is being blackmailed in your Senate, who is being blackmailed in your Congress, or who is being blackmailed in the White House. Don't forget, Trump and Clinton's name are in those Epstein files. This is how high that shit goes. Don't you want to know who else? Don't you want to know if the next American president is in the Epstein files? No, but you maggots don't want to know that.
Administration is they set in place a program that pays the hospitals more for illegal aliens and U.S. citizens. That is our.
Yeah, he's so desperate. He just made that up out of nowhere. That's new. That's the new makeup line right there. No proof.
If you look at on speaker.gov, you can see step by step. There's 5 different sections of our repeals of the law we did in July 4th. The Democrats are demanding to reverse right now. It will spend $200 billion of hardworking taxpayer funds to pay for health care for illegals. We're not doing that.
What you reference refers to law.
Yo, this man is talking. That man is talking about him. Every time he says illegal immigrants, he is talking about American citizens, middle class, and poor. That's literally who he's talking about. That's literally who he is out to take money from. And he's taking your tax dollars and putting it in. He's happy to go get that socialized health care that he got. He got the best socialized health care in the world, Maga Mike Johnson. He got the best in the world. You're paying for it. You pay for it. Whether you like him or not, you pay for it. Whether you're in his tax bracket or not. See, even a trailer trash MAGA supporter pays for Mike Johnson's health care, pays for his yacht, pays for his home, his 2 homes. Seriously, what could be more ridiculous than paying for a man who don't even think you deserve more than a damn trailer park? It's crazy, but that's what's happening.
Negotiation will show a screenshot of one of the videos. This was put out by the president. The president also called the Democrats the party of, quote, hate, evil, and Satan. Is the president someone you still feel like you can negotiate?
That's so funny, man. They go to doing these little things, but no serious person, when you see someone's trying to make racial jokes, you realize right then that person is basically giving up any other argument. They have no other argument, so they have to go to the racist tropes. And Republicans seem to do that quite often. Now, while Maga Mike Johnson is out of office, he sent people home out of session. This is happening at the same time. Now, the question is, let me know. Should because there's special elections happening all over the country. Some are in Republican districts. Republicans aren't doing too well in these special elections. But my question to you is, when the next president, if they happen to be an independent, if they or the next leader of the House, if they have, because it's looking like Dems will be the next leader. The next leader of the House will be a Dem, right? Regardless, due to the voters. And it usually flip flops every other year. It tends to do that in normal times. In bad times, it's going to flip. Right? Especially when you have a leader of the House sending paid congressional members home to not make any votes for weeks at a time. Right? Should the next Speaker of the House refuse, right, to swear in any Republicans? Should the next Speaker of the House refuse to swear in any Republicans at all? If the next Speaker of the House should refuse, because, if it applies for one, it applies for all. That's what fairness is. Should the next Speaker of the House refuse, if they're not a Republican, should they refuse to swear in any Republicans? Put a 1 in the chat if they should refuse. Put a 2 in the chat if you think it's not fair, and let me know the party you're with when you say it's unfair, because I want to know how many Dems think it's unfair versus Republicans. And if you think that they should refuse, if you think they should refuse to swear this woman in right now, you could put a 1 in the chat too and let me know. I'm curious. I want to know what people think. I don't play by unfair rules. I'm a grown ass man. I don't enjoy standing next to another man of any background, another woman of any background, and not compete fairly with her. And to me, it doesn't make me feel like a man to cheat. But I'm aware there's a lot of people that feel like they're very proud when they treat people with different rules. Right. So I'm aware I'm not like everybody else. There's different kind of people. But for me, I wouldn't feel like a man if I can't prove in a fair circumstance that I'm better than you are. So let's take sports, for example. If we line up and we run the 100-yard dash, the rules should be the same. If I beat you, I'm better at it. If we have a test, let's say a test to learn a new language, and we have 1 week to learn a new language, the rules should be the same. The person who performs, no matter their gender, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, any of that kind of shit, whoever learns it faster is the better person at that time. Very simple. But, it doesn't seem like Republicans know what fair is, because they're not actually swearing this woman in, and she won by overwhelming numbers in Arizona. Mike Johnson is not challenging her election, but he's not swearing her in at the same time, right? And he's telling people that he's now his new thing, after he told people he was going to do it next week. No, he said, we're going to do it as soon as she wants it. Then he changed the next day and started saying, if the Democrats don't end the shutdown, we won't do it. That's very, very interesting. So they don't want to swear. But then again, this doesn't make your cost of living cheaper. This won't get you health care cheaper. This is just not going to do it. It's
Johnson said he would swear in Adelita Grijalva whenever she wants. That was his words. As soon as she wants. And then a few hours later, his office put out a statement saying he's not planning to allow Democrats' newest member to be sworn in until her party agrees to end the government shutdown. One seems to have nothing to do with the other. Like, he could swear her in. They've sworn in Republican members. Do you think this really is about signatures on that discharge petition, the Epstein files?
This is absolutely about Epstein. This is absolutely about Epstein. And
even if it's about Epstein, it doesn't matter. Just because you're not swearing in an elected official doesn't mean you're making life better for your constituents. Very simple. It doesn't mean that. That's not the same thing. So, I'm just a little, I think I really like the fact that this is happening right now, because I don't think the U.S. can move forward until it tackles this issue about extremism in the country. And I'm talking about extreme politics, like this kind of thing where you have people paying federal taxes, right? You have people paying federal taxes, and yet, for some reason, these same people that pay the federal taxes are not expected to want something for those federal taxes in return to themselves. Something that they believe works for themselves, not something that someone who lives halfway across the country in a different environment thinks they need. Right? I'm curious about that.
It depends on what hurt the most means.
So who's going to be hurt the most?
Job losses, drop in GDP, budget stress, social welfare cutbacks, etc. But here's a reasoned ranking of states likely to be hardest hit if the US stays in a prolonged federal shutdown, with caveats and assumptions. Key risk factors. States most vulnerable will likely have combinations of high dependence on federal spending, grants, contracts, transfer payments, weak fiscal reserves or rainy day funds, economies concentrated in sectors sensitive to federal funding, defense, research, health, social services, lower flexibility in raising revenue, higher poverty, greater reliance on safety net programs. Using available data, here's a rough ordering of states likely to suffer greatest harm in no more than top 7, along with reasoning. Check likely hardest hit states, in rough order. 1. New Mexico, among the highest proportion of state revenue dependent on federal funding. USA facts, one of the poorer states with high demand on federal social programs. Weak tax base to absorb revenue losses. 2. West Virginia, also ranked high in federal dependency metrics. MoneyGeek.com, limited economic diversity.
Okay, let's stop right there. West Virginia. Should West Virginians pay 20 to 60% more for their health care? Now, let me know your party when you answer. If West Virginians should pay 20 to 60% more for their health care, put a 1 in the chat and let me know your party. If they shouldn't and you don't think that's fair, put a 2 in the chat and put your party. Again, the question is, should West Virginians pay 20 to 60% more for their health care? If you believe they should, put a 1 in the chat and put your party. If you think it's unfair, put a 2 in the chat and put your party. I think it's fucking unfair. Even though they voted for Trump, I just think it's unfair. It's wrong, man. They're having a hard time. Why would you want fellow Americans that have to struggle have a fucking harder time in the richest country on earth, most powerful country on earth. I would never ever do that to another American. And I'm a fucking liberal. I'm a Democrat. That just doesn't fucking make sense. That is hateful. This is devilish. It is devilish to make them to know that these people are going to pay 20 to 60% more for healthcare costs. And you're actually saying the reason why is because an illegal immigrant. That is a devilish scheme. That is fucking devilish. And this is what this MAGA Mike Johnson and Trump and Republican Party have been doing, gaslighting these poor people, these poor American citizens. They've been gaslighting them. That's devilish. Gaslighting is what a pimp does to a a woman or a girl or a person who's been sex trafficked by them. That's where the word comes from. It means they sit there and tell you they love you, they love you, they love you, while they're fucking you over every single day, making you feel guilty for your pain that's being inflicted by them. That's this. I could never do that. I'm just telling you, every West Virginian, I'm born in Washington, D.C., American citizen. Both of my parents come from the colonial period of the United States. Their families line come from the colonial period of, when the nation was being founded. I would never choose that for you. I've been to West Virginia before. All you got to do is drive through the goddamn mountains. Drive west from D.C. Just drive a couple of hours, you get there. I used to know an old black woman who lived out there. I forget the name of the town. So I used to travel out there every once in a while and stay for a week. God rest her soul. Her name was May, actually. And she used to have some nice apple trees when I was 7 years old in her yard. Was a hard working woman. She was blind as an adult most of her life. She went blind in her latter years, right? But I used to go there, and she was a good friend of my family's and stay out there now. Although she was black, listen, she's still just like everybody else out there. And there's plenty of different, white Americans that live out there. It is just to even suggest that there should ever be any way that they are paying 20 to 60% more when already there's loads of them they couldn't even afford to get on health care anyway is utterly shameful. There is no other way to put it. In the richest, most wealthiest country on earth, it is utterly shameful. Yet there's people that support it. So I didn't see a whole lot of Trump people come out here now and say they support that for some reason. I saw a lot of Dems say they don't support it. But where are the Trump people? See, this is the hypocrisy in the chat. Where are all those Trump trolls? Where all y'all at? Where all y'all at? You see, they got all quiet. They didn't want to say they didn't want to say we're Trumps on this one. See, that's called being fake. That's called being a fake ass up in the chat. You need to stand on what you believe and stand on the consequences. Stop wasting time and stop thinking people have time to play fucking games. This is going to impact people's lives. Among other things, but let's listen to some more.
Diversity, likely stress on budget and social services. Through Alaska, heavy reliance on federal dollars, especially for infrastructure, defense, special federal support. Visual capitalist, harsh costs of providing services in a large, sparsely populated state. 4. Mississippi, high ratio of federal spending versus tax receipts historically. Wikipedia, poverty levels, limited state revenue cushion. 5. Kentucky, Louisiana. Both states are often cited among the least prepared for recessions or fiscal shocks, Louisiana especially. Investopedia, significant reliance on federal programs, Medicaid, social welfare. 6. Alabama, also shows up high in federal dependency rankings. MoneyGeek.com has a vulnerable budget structure that may not absorb large cuts. 7. Other candidates, Montana, Delaware. Montana has had high proportions of its budget from federal funding. USA Facts, Delaware ranks high in some federal dependency or per capita contract metrics. Tri-City Herald. Additional notes and caveats. Some large states like Illinois, Georgia, Washington, New York are flagged by economic models, e.g. Moody's, as being in recession or at high risk. Fox Business. These are vulnerable too, not because of federal dependence necessarily, but because their economic engines are under strain. Some states with relatively strong tax bases or diversified economies, e.g. Texas, Florida, California, might fare better in relative terms, although large absolute losses will still hit them. The ranking above is more about vulnerability per capita or per unit of budget, not necessarily the total dollar hit. If you like, I can generate a full ranking for all 50 states using the best available models and data, and show damage scores for each.
Yes, please do that.
Great. I made a best effort, data-driven ranking of all 50 states by how badly they'd be hurt if a federal shutdown persisted indefinitely. How I built this, short, I combined 3 publicly available indicators that measure different kinds of federal dependence and vulnerability. 1. Share of state general revenue that comes from federal funds. States that get a big share of their budget from DC are directly exposed. Pew Charitable Trusts 2. Federal spending transfers per capita, how much federal dollars flows into residents and state programs. USA Facts, U.S. Treasury State Profiles. USA Facts 3. Balance of payments, net receipts per capita. States that receive much more than they send are hit harder when federal programs stop. Rockefeller Coverage. Rockefeller Institute of Government. I merged those signals into a single vulnerability score and then sorted the 50 states from most to least hurt. This is an estimate. The ranking mirrors multiple public analyses, Pew, USA Facts, Visual Capitalist, Money Geek, Rockefeller, but exact ordering would shift if you weight indicators differently or use a different year. I flagged the most important sources above so you can check the raw data. Estimated ranking. States most hurt, least hurt by a prolonged federal shutdown. 1. New Mexico. Visual Capitalist 2. Montana. USA Facts 3. Kentucky. Pew Charitable Trusts 4. Louisiana. Pew Charitable Trusts 5.
Now, just to make it clear, they're starting from the states most affected. So New Mexico, according to the data, you can dispute the data, but generally speaking, this data is very, very close to very, very, very accurate, like straight up. But in any case, New Mexico is number 1 to be hit, but then there's another list. So
Alaska, Visual Capitalist 2, Montana, USA Facts 3, Kentucky, Pew Charitable Trusts 4, Louisiana, Pew Charitable Trusts 5, Alaska, Pew Charitable Trusts 6, Mississippi, Pew Charitable Trusts 7, West Virginia, Pew Charitable Trusts 8, Alabama, Pew Charitable Trusts 9, Arkansas, Pew Charitable Trusts 10, Oklahoma, Pew Charitable Trusts 11, South Carolina, Pew Charitable Trusts 12, Tennessee, Pew Charitable Trusts 13, North Dakota, Pew Charitable Trusts 14, Wyoming, Pew Charitable Trust 15, New Hampshire, Pew Charitable Trusts 16, Idaho, Pew Charitable Trust 17, Vermont, Pew Charitable Trusts 18, Rhode Island, Pew Charitable Trusts 19, Arizona, Pew Charitable Trusts 20, Oregon, Pew Charitable Trusts 21, Missouri, Pew Charitable Trusts 22, Michigan, Pew Charitable Trusts 23, Iowa, Pew Charitable
somebody said in the chat, you can make data represent whatever you want it to. Well, I tell you what, in this little cookie here, the reality is going to be found out also, because I'm going to be watching for the next couple of months. I will be online every morning at the same time watching the destruction and where it hits. So there will be qualified data also, not just quantitative. Okay, we're going to show you Americans crying. Like you've heard Republicans that voted for Trump saying, damn, Trump, why aren't you going to do something to make sure our families get paid during the shutdown? Goddamn. That's qualified. Okay, that's not numbers. We don't know how many people feel that way, but that's qualified. Now, here's the thing. Since I'm an American citizen that lives outside of the U.S., right? This shit ain't going to hit me. So I'm not worried about whether I'm 100% right or 60% right or 7. We're going to find out how right and wrong I am too. So you get to see that from the other side. But again, me being right or wrong, I have universal health care. My kids have universal education and health care. They going to school any goddamn way. They're going to the doctor any goddamn way for their checkups before they get sick and after. So this is not an experiment on me. Trump is experimenting on your ass, and you're going to find out if I'm right or wrong, whether you like it or not.
Nebraska, Pew Charitable Trusts 25, Kansas, Pew Charitable Trusts 26, Pennsylvania, Pew Charitable Trusts 27, Ohio, Pew Charitable Trusts 28, New York, Pew Charitable Trusts 29, Connecticut, Pew Charitable Trusts 30, New Jersey, Pew Charitable Trusts 31, Massachusetts, Pew Charitable Trusts 32, Pew Charitable Trusts 33, Delaware, MoneyGeek.com 34, Virginia, Pew Charitable Trust.
I'm sorry, y'all, but just to suggest that the Pew Research Center, because you hear the chat GDP saying it's telling you where it's drawing its data from. Pew Charitable Trust. That's the Pew Institute. You know, that's one of the top ranked data collectors in the country. What the hell is this? They go the news follows the Pew Research pool. I mean, what is it? You know, people better get it together, man. If you really care about the issue. But let's play.
35, Minnesota, Pew Charitable Trusts 36, Wisconsin, Pew Charitable Trusts 37, Illinois, Pew Charitable Trusts 38, Colorado, Pew Charitable Trusts 39. Utah, Pew Charitable Trusts 40, North Carolina, Pew Charitable Trusts 41, Florida, USA Facts 42, Texas, USA Facts 43, California, USA Facts 44, Nevada, Pew Charitable Trusts 45, Washington, Axios 46, South Dakota, Pew Charitable Trusts 47, Montana, see number 2, listed earlier as high if you're checking exact spot, source lists vary. USA Facts 48, North.
So you're saying California is at the bottom, the least affected. So North Carolina, hey, you guys are doing a little better than a lot of people. Nebraska, you're doing a little better than a lot of people. But look, if you notice, the top of that goddamn list, just look at the top of the list. It should, people who live in these states should speak up and speak your minds. You should be outside. You should be in front of your state capitol demanding that your fucking representative do something, because according to the data, you are the first to get your shit cut. You are the first. You are in the center of the epidemic. You know what I'm saying? You are in ground zero of what's about to happen. New Mexico, Montana, Kentucky. And ain't none of y'all know better than each other, despite your ethnicity, despite your race, despite your gender, despite your age, whatever. Ain't none of you better than none of the others. You're all in the same situation. New Mexico, Montana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Alaska. And Alaska's way out on the edge and shit. You ain't no better than the rest of them. In fact, you're worse off than West Virginia. God damn. Like, you know what I'm saying? If I felt human feelings for people in West Virginia, and I think it's unfair for people in West Virginia to have to pay 20 to 60% more in healthcare costs as an estimate, then damn, I'm really feeling sad for Alaska, and I ain't never even been there. Like, what the hell?
Pew Charitable Trusts 5, Alaska. Pew Charitable Trusts 6, Mississippi. Pew Charitable Trusts 7, West Virginia. Pew Charitable Trusts 8, Alabama. Pew Charitable Trusts 9, Arkansas. Pew Charitable Trusts 10, Oklahoma. Pew Charitable Trusts 11.
I mean, Alaska, you would think they voted for Trump and shit. And it's like, come on, man, you're doing worse off. You're doing worse off than a lot of other states, man. It's like, damn. Anyway, so the data, just to review that, just for a tiny bit, right? Just to see what it looks like. Excuse me. Let me see here. Now, let's move to the next point.
Ever since Donald Trump came back into
Bondi, who's doing a terrific job. Well, I just want to be fair. Ultimately, it's up to Pam. I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam.
It's up to Pam. Is it, though? I mean, Attorney General Pam Bondi, she is the one who gets to decide
Okay,
which
so
opponents we indict.
I'm back now. Sorry for the delay, folks. Now check this out. Trump, he's saying it's up to Pam. Now, that's exposing her to legal liability, criminal liability. Like, straight up, it's up to Pam. You know, there's going to be investigations into this. As soon as Trump is out, as soon as this regime is out, obviously, whoever comes in next, because they get paid by the American taxpayers, their job is to clean up and make it clear what the fuck happened here with all of this crazy shit. This left turn that the United States made under Trump. I mean, you even have his wife out there telling people yesterday that she's had back channel conversations with Putin for a minute now. You know, she's just talking about Ukraine with Putin. You know, no security threat there. But in any case, this is what Trump says. Now, Trump goes out in public and requests it, but he's putting it all on Pam. And obviously, there is something that you cannot do. I mean, if you go out and try to try to convict or put charges on political opponents who are just, or not even opponents, just people you see as opponents, even though they're government servants, right? And you try to charge them with crimes, there's something called vindictive indictments that's not legal.
That's what he keeps saying. If an indictment is sought, it will be because Pam ordered it. That was his line over and over again. Now, here's the headline today from ABC News, quote, Pam Bondi, DOJ officials caught off guard by Tish James' indictment. According to that report, Attorney General Pam Bondi and other senior leadership of the Justice Department were caught off guard Thursday by news that a Trump-installed U.S. attorney had presented to a grand jury seeking an indictment of New Jersey Attorney General Letitia James. Surprised by that. So I guess it wasn't really up to Pam, after all, was it? Now, to be clear, it is not normal for the Attorney General of the United States to be out of the loop on the indictment of a major political figure. But especially surprising given that Pam Bondi has been Trump's most loyal and sycophantic Attorney General to date. And yet every day we get more and more evidence that Pam Bondi is being undermined by her boss as he carries out his personal revenge tour. I mean, first there was Trump's angry public screed demanding Bondi bring charges against his opponents. That was supposed to be a DM. That's what we know now. It's supposed to be sent privately. Then there was the report that Pam Bondi voiced concerns about attempting to prosecute James Comey just before Trump's handpicked beauty queen turned insurance lawyer turned U.S. attorney went ahead and did it anyway. And now Pam Bondi appears to have been cut out of the process altogether. Guess you can always find someone who will break more laws for you. Who knows? Joining me now is Democratic Senator Sheldon White. Ever since Donald Trump came back into office, he has been asked repeatedly about whether he will indict his political opponents. And just about every time, he's given the same response.
Are you willing to take this all the way to indictments?
Well, it's up to Pam Bondi, who's doing a terrific job. Well, I just want to be fair. Ultimately, it's up to Pam. I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam.
It's up to Pam. Is it, though? I mean, Attorney General Pam Bondi, she is the one who gets to decide which opponents we indict. That's what he keeps saying. If an indictment is sought, it will be because Pam ordered it. Ever since Donald Trump came back into office, he has been asked off guard by Tish James' indictment.
That's going to be up to Pam.
It's up to Pam about whether he will indict his political opponents. And just about every time, he's given the same response.
Are you willing to take this all the way to indictments?
Well, it's up to Pam Bondi, who's doing a terrific job. Well, I just want to be fair. Ultimately, it's up to Pam. I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam.
It's up to Pam. Is it, though? I mean, Attorney General Pam Bondi, she is the one who gets to decide which opponents we indict. That's what he keeps saying. If an indictment is sought, it will be because Pam ordered it. That was his line over and over again. Now, here's the headline today from ABC News, quote, Pam Bondi, DOJ officials caught off guard by Tish James' indictment. According to that report, Attorney General Pam Bondi and other senior leadership of the Justice Department were caught off guard Thursday by news that a Trump-installed U.S. attorney had presented to a grand jury seeking an indictment of New Jersey Attorney General Letitia James. Surprised by that. So I guess it wasn't really up to Pam after all, was it? Now, to be clear, it is not normal for the Attorney General of the United States to be out of the loop on the indictment of a major political figure. But especially surprising given that Pam Bondi has been Trump's most loyal and sycophantic Attorney General to date. And yet every day we get more and more evidence that Pam Bondi is being undermined by her boss as he carries out his personal revenge tour. I mean, first there was Trump's angry public screed demanding Bondi bring charges against his opponents. That was supposed to be a DM. That's what we know now. It's supposed to be sent privately. Then there was the report that Pam Bondi voiced concerns about attempting to prosecute James Comey just before Trump's handpicked beauty queen turned insurance lawyer turned U.S. attorney went ahead and did it anyway. And now Pam Bondi appears to have been cut out of the process altogether. Guess you can always find someone who will break more laws for you. Who knows? Joining me now is Democratic Senator Sheldon White. And it's illegal. We're also learning that while Pam Bondi was out of the loop, someone did manage to tell Ed Martin, the failed U.S. attorney candidate who is now in charge of pardons and weaponization, the Pardons and Weaponization Working Group somehow, that they told him. I mean, what does it say to you that like only the fringiest people in the Justice Department were looped in on this? They didn't go through the process. Thank you for educating us on that. They didn't inform the Attorney General, but Ed Martin knew.
Yeah, and here's where it gets even more interesting. There's also a rule over at the Department of Justice called the contacts policy. And it allows a very few members of the Department of Justice and a very few very senior people at the White House to have conversations with each other about criminal prosecutions. You don't want some little political squirrel over at the White House talking to some little political squirrel over at the Department of Justice and kicking off a criminal prosecution of somebody. So that's been a rule for, decades now. And I suspect that as these very able lawyers representing Comey and representing Attorney General James start to dig into what happened, we're going to find out a lot of information. If Ed Martin knew, there's probably some little political squirrel over at the White House who knew, and now you've got a huge contacts policy violation as well. And all of this stains the attorney generalship of Pam Bondi. And at some point, she's going to get fed up. I mean, Kash Patel has already dirtied her up quite a lot. Now you've got this U.S. attorney, kinda, and her nutty Ed Martin character.
Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, when it comes to criminal activity, none of them know anything that's going on. They always tell you to revert to the other, So Pam Bondi doesn't know anything about the Epstein files anymore. Kash Patel doesn't know anything about the Epstein files. I mean, you find out all the time they know nothing about the very thing that they ran on. They ran on the Epstein files. They literally had 50 to 80 women, maybe 100 women come out in front of the Capitol building and tell their stories publicly in front of Congress. Well, and still they don't even want to investigate it. They're claiming that, hey, there's nothing there. Suddenly they ran on the Epstein files and now there's nothing there at all. But guess what they do know about? They know about crimes of who? People that prosecuted Epstein. I mean, it's really crazy. They fire the prosecutor that actually prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell. They send Ghislaine Maxwell to a soft, cushy, vacation prison, essentially for white-collar criminals, even though she's a sex trafficker to the highest degree, right? And for some reason, now they're trying to figure out who did something like with the woman in New York, the prosecutor in New York, the DA there. They're trying to claim that, she put her residence on 2 homes. When you find out that, there's loads of people that are doing that because people sell homes sometimes, buy new homes, change homes, move to different homes when you have a career, or move from one state to the other. It could be numerous reasons. Change a home from a permanent home into a vacation home, and they're just trying to make light of it. They find little things like this to say, hey, we're going to prosecute this. But the big things that they ran on, they don't do when it comes to crime. Look, it's crazy.
Who are dirtying her up even more.
Larger amounts of money. Now, obviously, she's a public figure, so it seems like that may be the reason she was targeted, not necessarily because of the largesse of the scheme.
Yo, Cheryl Douglas, you know Trump is about to leave sick and pardon Ghislaine Maxwell because she can easily turn on him if he does not pardon her. You know the man is sick. They all, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, know that Trump is sick. Everybody in his cabinet knows that Trump is sick. You look at the man, he's on his last day. You could act like he's Superman all you want, but people got eyes. You know, it's not the first time we saw a person in this 78 years old, what it looks like sometimes, a lot of times, especially when you just eat McDonald's for fucking dinner every day or a steak with ketchup. I mean, that's literally Trump. So this man ain't going to last, period. There's no way in hell he got 3 more years on him, let alone a year of life. Like, seriously, especially if he's not taking care of himself. When you're in the White House, you're not taking care of yourself. You're supposed to be doing the job of the American people. You're supposed to be up all hours of the day. Like, seriously. So, you know, the job of the presidency is just going to kill the man. But in any case, you can look at him and you can tell just his mental shape. He is out of there. The man can barely talk for 15 minutes or 10 minutes without spilling something out of his mouth. I mean, it's over for Trump. It is over for Trump. And you know that the last act that he does is going to be pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, because if he doesn't, she's going to throw the entire family under the bus and put out what the man is. And we're going to show you what the man is in a second.
But it does stand out to me because it is a relatively small amount of money that we're looking at.
Jake, I want to ask you, James is just one of the people mentioned in that Truth Social post that we talked about, where the president essentially said to Pam Bondi, you know, go after these people. How much coordination, if any, do we think there was between Lindsay Halligan and Bondi before charging the former New York AG?
So that's actually the weird part, is the Wall Street Journal had some reporting come out that indicates Halligan kind of went a little rogue on it and actually didn't tell either AG Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche. Now, I never want to speculate into a competitor's sourcing, but what it does make you wonder is whoever leaked this, were they okay with the implication that either Pam Bondi isn't on top of this, or that Halligan might look like she's jumping rank and there's really no downside to doing that internally? What I can tell you from my reporting is that Pam Bondi is very much on the ropes internally. I did this informal poll in one of my most recent stories for the newsletter where I asked Trump officials to rank 1 through 5 who the cabinet members in the worst standing were.
Yeah, that's Trump. A fun game. Okay.
And one of these guys put Bondi 1 through 4.
Really?
It's like lumped in everyone else at the end. So the knives are definitely starting to come out for her. And I think that that's where we see this cart getting ahead of the horse type recurring theme with all these, cases.
And Barrett, I want to ask you, because MSNBC has exclusively learned that federal prosecutors in Maryland could indict Trump's former national security advisor as early as next week. When it comes to John Bolton, what charges do you think he's likely to face based on what you've learned about the raid we saw at his Maryland home back in September?
Yeah, so what it appears that they're looking at.
Look at this. So they're still talking about if they're going to indict John Bolton. They raided his home how long ago? Look, that shows you right there. That's so weak, because if you raid a man's home, you have to get a warrant. You have to go to a judge and show that, there's a high likeliness that there is a crime there, that we know it's in his house. All we need is access to his house, and we can get it and show it to you. Whatever happened with that? So where is it at? You can see basically it's nothing but what they've been saying the entire, this guy Bolton. I'm not a fan of Bolton, right? I believe he was like a neocon, but nonetheless, the dude does have some kind of ethics, when it comes to this kind of stuff. Now, this guy said he already explained what the issue was. He wrote a book. He got approval from the Trump administration when he wrote his book. The stuff was declassified so that the man could write the book. Then after he wrote the book, Trump saw what was in it and was like, oh, shit, you shouldn't have done that. This is literally what all of that FBI raid was about. So in any case, even if they say it's about something else, they got a warrant. So they had to show that they had a high probability of finding something. Well, they raided the man's house. You haven't heard shit from them since. They still haven't indicted the man. It's ridiculous.
Would be some sort of charge related to mishandling of classified information, which, as everyone will remember, it's similar charges that were facing President Trump before he won his reelection. What's interesting is this is now, if Bolton was indicted, he would be the third one of President Trump's very vocal critics to have been indicted. To me, this really only adds to the strength of potential motions that
all three of them are going to get off for vindictive prosecution. And that is a thing in the courts. It's easy to prove now because of all the comments and statements that Trump has made and demands that he has made publicly of all these people. I mean, who else does this? It's only Trump. He's undermined his own prosecutions, and that's how it's going to turn out. Now, for people that's wondering, Trump, and does this look good, and what did he do, and I don't understand him, the man did nothing, and all of this stuff. I mean, just to remind people, this is out there.
Is a billionaire friend of Donald Trump's that was responsible for throwing the sex parties.
And when you say you're a recruiter, what?
I came to this interview on my free will, on my own free will.
Okay.
Yes, everything that I say at this interview will be the truth.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's start with, how did you meet Donald Trump?
I met Donald Trump at some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump.
And how old were you when you met him?
I was 13.
13.
Mm-hmm.
And how did the initial meeting, how did that work?
Whew. The first time that I met Donald Trump was...
Guys! Seriously.
Okay, you can hear that?
We need absolute quiet.
Okay, sorry.
And the first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance. And he basically asked if I could come over and give him a hand job. And at first, I wasn't very comfortable with it. This was like my first or second, first party, and I didn't think that was my responsibility. But my recruiter told me that I needed to do it, so I agreed to. And then he, I began to. Sorry, this is a little difficult, but before I gave him a hand job, he kind of slapped my hand away and said, "You need to use a glove." And the recruiter, he ran over and handed me a glove and said, "No one touches Mr. Trump's penis without a glove." So
let's start with, how did you meet Donald Trump?
I met Donald Trump at some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump.
And how old were you when you met him?
I was 13.
13.
Mm-hmm.
And how did the initial...
So, 13 years old, that's been out there. Kash Patel's heard of that. You haven't heard Kash Patel say, hey, we need to interview this lady. Just like he hasn't said we need to interview any of the victims. Kash Patel has not interviewed one victim himself. Pam Bondi hasn't interviewed one victim, and there's hundreds. You see, I mean, when the victims come to the Capitol steps, and this is not even one, this is one that says she got so many death threats, she just said, fuck it, man. It's not worth it. Now, there's so many others that corroborate her story. If you hear more of her story, they say very similar things. They had recruiters La la la. Nobody disputes that they have recruiters except Trump now. Now Trump says it's all made up. Well, he says it's all made up. Okay, that may be fine and dandy. But his own cabinet member doesn't say that it's all made up. The very man that sits to the left of him, right, in these meetings doesn't say so. The very man that believes what a lot of you Trump people believe in Trump. Yeah, go after those immigrants. Yeah, fuck that. Give us our money. Don't spend the money on this. Even him said this. He said something else.
This morning,
Let's hear it.
President Trump's Commerce Secretary is speaking out about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Howard Lutnick, who once lived next door to Epstein, telling a New York Post podcast Epstein once gave him a tour of his home.
I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. Ooh. And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Lutnick says he broke ties with Epstein after that encounter. He says he believes Epstein got a favorable deal back in 2008 when Epstein pleaded guilty to 2 state prostitution charges, granting him and any potential co-conspirators immunity from federal prosecution. Lutnick then making this claim.
And what happened in that massage room, I assume was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever.
Suggesting without evidence that Epstein may have traded compromising videos of high-profile associates in exchange for leniency. Epstein ended up serving only 13 months in a county jail with work release privileges. The Justice Department and FBI have said there's no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals, but House Democrats now want to speak with Lutnick.
We're very interested in understanding what exactly he knows, where those theories come from, and anyone, particularly if you're in the Trump administration and you are saying those comments so freely, you have to have additional information.
The push in Congress to release more of the Epstein files has been delayed by the government shutdown. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, New York.
I mean, hey, if you are fine with a pedophile, would-be pedophile, or seemingly pedophile, grifting, non-tax paying president who signs a deal, who, accepts a deal or whatever, accepts an offer to have Qatar build a military base in the heartland of the United States of America. If you're okay with all of that, if you're okay with paying 20 to 60% health care coming up very soon, as a matter of fact, around your Christmas time, you're going to be hurting anyway, whether you pay higher health care or not, because Trump has fucked up your economy like no other person. I mean, if you're okay with this, that would make you basically a follower, pretty much a dead brain follower, a person who really cannot think for themselves, because in a healthy minded person, all these things would be very, very bad. They wouldn't be things you cheer on and go, Trump, Trump, yeah. I mean, either that or you're a troll. There's a lot of trolls out there, but all of y'all ain't trolls that support this kind of bullshit and make excuses for it. I mean, there is a connection between your choices and the quality of your life. And if you're bitching about the quality of your life right about now, and it didn't get solved since the Biden was the president, then something ain't right with your choices. See, you should have chose something that improved the quality of your life. So, has the quality of your life improved under Donald Trump's leadership since January 20th when he took office? Put a 1 in the chat if the quality of your life has improved. Put a 2 in the chat if it absolutely has not. And I'm going to leave it for today. Put a 1 in the chat if the quality of your life has improved under Donald J. Trump. And put a 2 in the chat if it absolutely has not. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'll see you guys later on today. I'm just going to watch, I'm going to let this play one more time while I hear watch your views and look at the chat. I appreciate y'all. Click like, click subscribe.
This morning, President Trump's Commerce Secretary is speaking out about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Howard Lutnick, who once lived next door to Epstein, telling a New York Post podcast Epstein once gave him a tour of his home.
I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. Ooh. And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Lutnick says he broke ties with Epstein after that encounter. He says he believes Epstein got a favorable deal back in 2008 when Epstein pleaded guilty to 2 state prostitution charges, granting him and any potential co-conspirators immunity from federal prosecution. Lutnick then making this claim.
And what happened in that massage room, I assume, was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever.
Suggesting without evidence that Epstein may have traded compromising videos of high-profile associates in exchange for leniency. Epstein ended up serving only 13 months in a county jail with work release privileges. The Justice Department and FBI have said there's no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals, but House Democrats now want to speak with Lutnick.
We're very interested in understanding what exactly he knows, where those theories come from, and anyone, particularly if you're in the Trump administration and you are saying those comments so freely, you have to have additional information.
Just one more question. I just want to hear from the people that support Trump, that hardcore. What is the excuse? What excuse do you have for Lutnick coming out and making these comments right now? Is Lutnick a sellout? Was he paid off by the Illuminati? Is he a liberal? Is he an undercover liberal supporter? Why would Lutnick say these kind of things when obviously it's very, very damaging for Trump? Why would he say that? Or do you think these comments are good for Trump? You let me know. Do you think the comments are good for Trump? If you think the comments are good for Trump, put a 1 in the chat. If you think Lutnick's comments were good for Trump, put a 1 in the chat. If you think they weren't, put a 2 in the chat, yo. I'm out. I'm gonna catch up with you guys later on today. Have a good Sunday. I appreciate y'all. What? This is crazy, man. Release the damn Epstein files. Come on. Trump, just retire, man. Get the hell out of office. Can we get on with our life again? Shit, man.
They want war. Crime babies looking for food. Starvation, the recipe. People subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day in every clue. Don't let it go. It's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep. Leaving 7 roads to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct. And I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink. But I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and up and we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die. You voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more. But they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more. But they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers. Cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather. I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in the way to settle. If you stop the machines for a minute, you might hear, but they won't, cause the TV's whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ad, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison.
They want war. All they really want is a war. Diversion, every tactic to make the big score. Them diamonds in the morning, then you know they want more. But they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. All they really want is a war. Diversion, every tactic to make the big score. Them diamonds in the morning, then you know they want more. But they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war.
There sure are a lot of steps to get them files. Maybe we'll ask him ourselves.
I'm just a file. Yes, I'm only a file. If you wanna pick a shower, you'll be waiting a while.
Come on. Can you at least give us a hint?
Well, I'm heavily redacted, but between you...